Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson announces that the city is in open rebellion and actively engaging in an insurrection against the federal government. This bold, treasonous proclamation prompts Donald Trump to call for Brandon Johnson to be jailed, as well as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who also co-signs this insurrection. The mayor then goes on CNN and gets brutally humiliated by the host, who presses him for not answering any of her questions and only talking in meaningless platitudes. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I have a hilarious bonus clip for you guys at the end of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker getting exhausted and running out of breath while daring Donald Trump to come arrest him. But let's start by hearing the mayor declare that the city of Chicago is in open rebellion against the United States government.
A new executive order signed Monday by Mayor Brandon Johnson designates ice-free zones within the city.
City property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
The order prohibits ICE agents from using city-owned property to make arrests. Johnson says signs will be posted at city properties, including in the parking lots of Chicago public schools and Chicago Park District field houses.
The fact is, we cannot allow them to rampage throughout our city with no checks or balances. Nobody is above the law. If we break the law, you should be held accountable. If Congress will not check this administration, then Chicago will.
This is the third executive order issued by the mayor since the Department of Homeland Security launched Operation Midway Blitz in the Chicago area. Each has tried to limit ICE from operating in the city. Since early September, the agency has reportedly arrested nearly 1,000 people. They've also been involved in 2 shootings, including one in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood on Saturday. Johnson has repeatedly said that Chicago police will not coordinate with ICE during its operation here.
What authority does Brandon Johnson have to declare that agents of the federal government do not have jurisdiction to carry out law enforcement operations in the city of Chicago? And not only are his meaningless executive orders treasonous by nature, but the bigger question is, what is he going to do about it? Is the Chicago Police Department going to detain and arrest ICE agents if they violate Brandon Johnson's executive order? Are the police going to get into a shootout with ICE agents for simply enforcing federal immigration law? The funniest thing about this entire situation is the Democrats, who are completely void of any self-awareness, don't even realize they are on the wrong side of history yet again. Once again, Republicans are having to force rebellious Democrat states to adhere to federal law. The Democrats don't even realize they are making the same exact argument the Confederacy did during the Civil War. What about states' rights? The federal government is infringing on a state's right to sovereignty. Just like they don't realize their argument for why we need illegal slave labor is the exact same argument they gave for why we needed illegal black labor. But Democrats never change, and now they're engaged in yet another insurrection against the United States. But let's hear Brandon Johnson go on CNN and try to defend his anti-ICE proclamation and get absolutely shut down by the host.
This president has made it very clear he doesn't support this Constitution. And if Congress, which our framers designed for Congress and the Supreme Court and the courts to provide checks and balance, if Congress will not hold this president accountable, I will.
And what are you going to do?
Well, just this past week, I signed another executive order. We have 3 sweeping executive orders to make sure that the fundamental right to protest is intact. We're making sure that people know their rights, and all of our sister agencies and city departments are working in accordance with the local ordinance. And then now, public property that the city owns, ICE cannot prepare its weapons on school parking lots. ICE cannot prepare to disappear families in the parking lots of libraries. That's not what these public accommodations are for.
Guys, please smash the like button if you enjoyed that. What are you gonna do? Because that's exactly what we're all thinking. Who does this guy think he is? He is certainly too big for his britches. All he's going to do is continue to whine and cry about why Illinois should be able to disregard, ignore, and obstruct federal law from being enforced. The exact same way Democrats did back in the 60s when they ignored federal law, obstructed black children from integrating into white schools, had the Insurrection Act invoked against them, and National Guard troops were sent to stop their rebellious insurrection then as well. It's funny, Democrats are always the one preaching about their intellectual superiority and how we need to read up on history, but conveniently ignores the history that their party consistently defies federal law. And this is where the CNN host fact checks him, proving that Trump actually does have authority to send in the National Guard because protesters are obstructing ICE vehicles from entering and exiting the facility. And Brandon Johnson just ignores that part and instead rambles about how bad ICE is.
And the White House says that they're doing what they're allowed to do under Title 10, the law. They say that these operations are designed to protect federal facilities and officers. And there have been some protesters around Chicago that have blocked access to the ICE facility in Broadview. Does that prove that this mobilization is needed?
No, in fact, this president is working to look, from the very beginning, we always knew that sending in the federal agents was a pretext to the National Guard. His ultimate goal is to send the military into American cities, which there aren't people who are signing up to serve and protect our democracy abroad to be then unleashed on the cities that are actually raising them. What we have seen is a full escalation from these federal agents. And a man was shot and killed. Another person was shot by federal agents. Just this past weekend, they unleashed tear gas on my local police department. Over 24 police officers were subject to this type of violent escalation. The people in Chicago are very clear about our fundamental right to protest. That is a fundamental right for our democracy, and that's what we're going to continue to protect.
So even though protesters are legitimately obstructing and preventing ICE from entering and exiting the facility, in order to try to get them to give up enforcing federal immigration law, Brandon Johnson doesn't think it's warranted. Even though that is the same tactic implemented by teachers, parents, and community members when they tried to block black children from integrating into their schools. And that was enough to get the Insurrection Act invoked and allow National Guard to come in and force these states to obey federal law. But because they're the bad guys and on the wrong side of history, he has to ignore her question entirely and disregard the premise. The same way the Democrats said during the George Floyd riots that it was nothing but peaceful protests going on as we were watching cities burn to the ground, he ignores the key point the host made, that there's actual obstruction going on, and instead pushes a false narrative that it's just peaceful protesting and they're preserving Americans' First Amendment rights. But the host pushes back, asks the question again, and unsurprisingly gets another word salad.
Right. Now, the woman that was shot, DHS has said they did that for defensive reasons. She was car ramming, but there are certainly questions surrounding that still. But when it comes to what I had mentioned, for example, protesters blocking access to federal buildings, what is your message to those protesters? I mean, do you support them blocking access?
What I've always said is that we have to peacefully assemble, and we do that nonviolently. That is how we have transformed this country. The city of Chicago is known for its ability to stand up and to resist peacefully. So of course we're not condoning any acts of violence, but that also includes that the federal government cannot unleash tear gas and shoot pepper balls at journalists for just showing up to do their job and to cover the news. This president has intentionally worked to escalate violence in the city of Chicago and cities across America. We're just simply defending our fundamental right to our democracy.
It's funny because Democrats will claim that Republicans using their voice and freedom of speech is an act of violence. But them obstructing and violently clashing with law enforcement is simply peaceful protest. And the reason he refuses to condemn it is because they're in open rebellion and he wants more of it. Here's a chilling news report out of Chicago that anarchists are doxing ICE agents and planning to attack Chicagoland ICE facilities. Take a look.
New bulletins from the Center for Internet Security and Department of Homeland Security stating ICE agents and facilities have been targeted by an anarchist website in Chicago. The law enforcement threat assessment from the Center for Internet Security says at least 4 Chicago area ICE facilities, including Broadview, have been surveilled with detailed layouts, diagrams, and photos posted to what is described as an anarchist website. Also found on the website, reviewed by the ABC 7i team, photos of ICE agents, including names, faces, and badge numbers.
There has been an increase in the attempt to gather information online and publish it even on websites publicly available.
A separate Department of Homeland Security Joint Intelligence Bulletin from this month advises ICE facilities and personnel face an increased threat from domestic violent extremists, similar to the two shootings at ICE facilities in Texas in September and July.
This is why Brandon Johnson refuses to condemn the illegal activity taking place against ICE. It's the same reason J.B. Pritzker went on CNN a couple of days ago and refused to condemn a lady trying to ram and kill ICE agents with her car, because this is exactly the behavior that they want. And the only people who would want this are rebels engaged in an active insurrection against the federal government. There's no other way to cut it or spin it. And they call Donald Trump a dictator because he is following his constitutional responsibility as president of the United States to make sure that states adhere to federal law. The Democrats represent the interests of illegal aliens and are protecting and defending their right to stay in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, implying that they've already seceded from the Union and federal laws have no jurisdiction in their geographical borders. But the last thing I'm going to show you is the bonus clip I promised of J.B. Jabba the Hutt Pritzker trying to look tough and brave and daring Donald Trump to come arrest him.
You know as well as I do, the President of the United States in the last 24 hours called for you to be imprisoned. I want to give you an opportunity. We've seen your reaction on social media, but I want to hear what you have to say back to the President of the United States.
Well, let's start with the idea that this is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that, who is threatening to jail me. I got to say, this guy's unhinged. He's insecure. He's a wannabe dictator. And there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me. So come and get me.
What does that mean?
It is the very pro-illegal alien sanctuary policies adopted by these states and cities that is leading to such a heavy ICE presence in their community. If their policy is when a criminal illegal alien commits a crime, they refuse to hand him over to immigration authorities in the prison, that means that ICE agents have to go on the streets and into the communities to arrest these people. They're not going to just let them run free simply because the state of Illinois or California or New York tries to make it as inconvenient as possible. And when they find these criminal illegal aliens and they're surrounded by 5, 6, 7, 8 other illegal aliens who might not have criminal records, they all get picked up. And then the Democrats fallaciously run with the talking point, they're not going after the worst of the worst, they're just going after hard-working community members. Well, if you care about these hard-working community members who are still here illegally, by the way, maybe you should abandon your ridiculous sanctuary policies and start handing over these criminal illegal aliens to ICE in the prisons. But their reluctance to do that shows that they aren't just prioritizing illegal aliens over American citizens, they are prioritizing the very worst of the worst illegal aliens over American citizens. And once you declare that you're a political party that doesn't represent US citizens, you actually represent foreign invaders, and proclaim that your state is basically a separate country immune from the laws of the United States government, the president has every constitutional right to whip you back in line. It does not make him a dictator. It makes you an insurrectionist. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.